This is the USA Emergency Broadcast Network, your source for reliable disaster preparedness information.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this station, its management, sponsors, or other hosts. If you have any comments or suggestions about this program, please contact us at radio@usaebn.org. That's radio@usaebn.org.
We, the people of the 21st century, need to educate ourselves on the true meaning of the statement. We, the people. What promises did our founding fathers make to us? We need to understand in order to ensure we receive our promises. We, the people 21 on the USA EBN Digital Broadcasting Network. Welcome to We the People 21, the show where truth meets accountability and civic power takes center stage. I'm Racheal Quinn, and today we're pulling back the curtain on something that affects every single one of us, whether you're in Miami, Arizona, or Manhattan, New York. It's not trending on TikTok, it's not a viral meme, but it's the backbone of your daily life. The laws Congress is writing right now, and the money shaping those laws behind closed doors. January 2026 isn't just another month on the calendar. It's a legislative battlefield. Bills on renewable energy, healthcare, cybersecurity, housing, and education are lined up like dominoes, ready to fall. And here's the kicker. Every domino is being nudged. Not by you, not by me, not by the voters, but by donors with deep pockets and even deeper agendas. Let's get real. When you hear about the Renewable Energy Act or the Healthcare Accessibility Act, you probably think, great, progress. But what you don't see is the tug-of-war happening in the shadows. Renewable energy PACs are outspending fossil fuel PACs 3-1. Healthcare PACs and insurance giants are throwing millions at lawmakers to make sure your medical bills stay sky-high. Tech PACs, they're practically writing the cybersecurity laws themselves. And real estate PACs, they're making sure affordable housing stays a dream for millions. This isn't about left or right. It's about power. Who has it, who's buying it, and who's losing it. Spoiler alert. It's not the donors losing. It's us, the people. And that's why this episode matters. Because if we don't understand how donor influence works, we can't fight back. We can't demand better. We can't hold anyone accountable. So here's what we're doing today. First, I'm going to walk you through the January 2026 congressional agenda, bill by bill, hearing by hearing. You'll know what's coming before it hits the headlines. Then, we'll dig into the donor data. Who's paying who? How much? And what do they want in return? Finally, we'll talk about what you can do, because knowledge isn't just power, it's survival in a system that's rigged for the highest bidder. Let's start with the big picture. January is packed. On January 5th, the House takes up H.R. 1234, the Renewable Energy Act. Sounds great, right? Tax incentives for solar and wind projects. But here's the truth. Renewable PACs have pumped $180 million into this fight, while fossil fuel PACs are throwing $90 million at lawmakers to stall it. That's not a debate, it's an auction. And the auctioneer? Congress. Let me give you names. Representative Unknown. Yes, the report doesn't even bother to name them, pulled in $50,000 from the Solar Energy Industries Association. Another unnamed representative, $45,000 from the same PAC. On the flip side, Representative Alex Johnson pocketed $40,000 from the American Petroleum Institute. Representative Emily Davis, $35,000 from fossil fuel interests. So when the Renewable Energy Act hits the floor, do you really think it's about science or sustainability? No. It's about who paid the most for the vote. January 10th, Healthcare Accessibility Act. Expanding Medicaid, subsidies for low-income families. Noble idea. But the insurance lobby isn't clapping, they're cutting checks. $250 million to block it. Meanwhile, Universal Care PACs scraped together $120 million to push it forward. Representative Michael Brown, $60,000 from the American Medical Association. Representative Sarah Wilson, $55,000 from Healthcare for All PAC. Sounds good, right? But then look at the opposition. Representative David Lee, $50,000 from the insurance lobby. Representative Laura Martinez, $45,000 from PHRMA. That's not healthcare policy, that's donor warfare. And it doesn't stop there. Cybersecurity Enhancement Act on January 14th, Affordable Housing Act on January 18th, Education Reform Act on January 12th. Every single one of these bills is a magnet for donor money. And every dollar comes with strings attached. Now, you might be thinking, Racheal, this sounds like corruption. And you're right. It smells like it. It walks like it. But here's the catch. It's legal. Perfectly legal. Because campaign finance laws are Swiss cheese, and PACs know every hole. They bundle donations. They target swing votes. They flood committees with cash. And the result? Policy shaped by money, not by merit. So what does that mean for you? It means your energy bills, your healthcare costs, your kids' education, your rent. All of it is being decided in rooms you'll never enter, by people you'll never meet, funded by donors you'll never see. And that's why We the People 21 exists. To make the invisible visible. To give you the facts, the names, the numbers, and the tools to fight back. Let's break down the House agenda for January. First up, Renewable Energy Act, January 5th, donor influence. Renewable Energy PAC and Solar Energy Industries Association on one side, Fossil Fuel Industry PAC and American Petroleum Institute on the other. Top recipients: for renewables, Representative Unknown, 50,000, Representative Unknown, 45,000. Against renewables, Representative Alex Johnson, 40,000, Representative Emily Davis, 35,000. This isn't a policy debate, it's a financial tug-of-war. Next, Healthcare Accessibility Act, January 10th, donor influence. Healthcare for all PAC and AMA pushing for it, private insurance lobby, and PHRMA fighting against it. Top recipients: for Representative Michael Brown, 60,000, Representative Sarah Wilson, 55,000. Against, Representative David Lee, 50,000, Representative Laura Martinez, 45,000. When you hear lawmakers argue about costs, remember, they're not talking about your costs. They're talking about donor costs. January 8th brings the Clean Water Act amendments, H.R. 7890. Environmental Defense Fund and NRDC want stronger water standards. API and NEM want to keep regulations weak. Top recipients: for Representative Unknown, 55,000, Representative Unknown, 50,000. Against, Representative Alex Johnson, 45,000, Representative Emily Davis, 40,000. So when you turn on your tap, remember, your water quality is being auctioned off. And then there's January 18th, the Affordable Housing Act, H.R. 2345. National Low-Income Housing Coalition and Habitat for Humanity are fighting for it. Real Estate Roundtable and NAB are fighting against it. Top recipients: for Representative Lisa Green, 70,000, Representative Kevin White, 65,000. Against, Representative Robert Harris, 60,000, Representative Nancy Clark, 55,000. So when your landlord raises the rent again, don't just blame the market. Blame the money behind the market. Committee hearings matter too. January 15th, the House Committee on Energy and Commerce will hold a hearing on climate change. Donor influence: Environmental Defense Fund and Sierra Club versus Coal Industry PAC and National Mining Association. Top recipients: for Representative Lisa Green, 30,000, Representative Kevin White, 25,000. Against, Representative Robert Harris, 20,000, Representative Nancy Clark, 15,000. These hearings shape the language of bills before they ever hit the floor. And every word is influenced by who paid for the microphone. January 22nd, the House Judiciary Committee tackles immigration reform. Donor influence: American Immigration Council and National Immigration Forum versus Federation for American Immigration Reform and Numbers USA. Top recipients: for Representative Unknown, 35,000, Representative Unknown, 30,000. Against, Representative Alex Johnson, 25,000, Representative Emily Davis, 20,000. So when you hear lawmakers talk about border security or pathways to citizenship, remember, those talking points were bought and paid for. This is the reality. This is the system. And until we understand it, we can't change it. Coming up in part 2 of this opening segment, we'll talk about why this matters, not just in theory, but in your everyday life. Your energy bills, your healthcare costs, your rent, your kids' education, all of it is on the line. And I'll show you how donor influence turns into real-world consequences for you and your family. Stay with me, because this is where the truth gets uncomfortable. Start with energy. The Renewable Energy Act sounds like progress. Tax incentives for solar and wind projects. Cleaner air, lower emissions, maybe even lower utility bills down the road. But here's the truth. If this bill passes, renewable energy companies win, and you might see relief on your electric bill in a few years. If it fails, fossil fuel PACs win, and you keep paying for dirty energy. Renewable energy PACs have pumped $180 million into pushing this bill. Fossil fuel PACs, $90 million to stop it. Representative unknown, $50,000 from solar energy PAC. Another unnamed lawmaker, $45,000. On the flip side, Representative Alex Johnson, $40,000 from the American Petroleum Institute. Representative Emily Davis, $35,000 from fossil fuel industry PAC. So when you open your next power bill and wonder why it's still climbing, remember, it's not just inflation. It's influence. Now, healthcare. The Healthcare Accessibility Act could expand Medicaid and lower costs for low-income families. That means fewer ER bills, fewer bankruptcies over medical debt. But the insurance lobby doesn't want that. They've spent $250 million to block it. Meanwhile, Healthcare for All PAC and the American Medical Association are pushing back with $120 million. Representative Michael Brown, $60,000 from AMA. Representative Sarah Wilson, $55,000 from Healthcare for All PAC. Sounds good, right? But then there's Representative David Lee, $50,000 from the insurance lobby. Representative Laura Martinez, $45,000 from PHRMA. So when your next premium jumps or your prescription costs skyrocket, don't just blame the system. Blame the donors who bought the system. Housing. The Affordable Housing Act could mean tax credits for low-income housing projects, relief for families drowning in rent. But real estate PACs are fighting hard, $150 million to kill this bill. Representative Lisa Green, $70,000 from Housing Advocates. Representative Kevin White, $65,000. On the other side, Representative Robert Harris, $60,000 from Real Estate Roundtable. Representative Nancy Clark, $55,000. So when your landlord raises the rent again, don't just blame the market. Blame the money behind the market. And cybersecurity, S. 3456, the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act. This one's tricky because it sounds like a win for everyone. More funding for cybersecurity research means better protection against hacks. But here's the catch. Tech PACs are writing this bill. TechNet and Cybersecurity Coalition have locked it down. Senator Michael Brown, $65,000. Senator Sarah Wilson, $60,000. No opposition. 0. So yes, the bill will pass. But whose technology gets funded? Whose contracts get approved? The ones backed by the donors, not necessarily the ones best for you. Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, opening your utility bill. It's higher than last month. You shrug, blame the economy. But behind that bill is a vote, one that could have shifted energy policy toward renewables, lowering costs over time. That vote didn't go your way because someone else paid for it. Now picture your next doctor's visit. You need a prescription, but the price makes your jaw drop. Why? Because the insurance lobby spent $250 million to keep drug prices high. Picture your rent check. It's eating half your paycheck. Affordable housing could have helped, but real estate PACs spent millions to make sure it didn't. And picture your online bank account. You assume it's safe. But the cybersecurity bill that passed? It funded the companies with the biggest donors, not necessarily the best tech. That's the reality. That's the cost of influence. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because we like to believe democracy means our voices matter. But in Washington, money talks louder than any vote. And until we understand that, we're playing a game we can't win. Every dollar a PAC spends is a megaphone drowning out your voice. And the lawmakers cashing those checks, they're not thinking about your family. They're thinking about their next campaign, their next donor dinner, their next leadership PAC fundraiser. So what do? First, we pay attention. We stop scrolling past headlines and start asking questions. Who funded that bill? Who wrote that amendment? Who benefits if it passes? Second, we hold lawmakers accountable. Not by party, not by ideology, but by integrity. If your representative took $50,000 from the insurance lobby and voted against healthcare reform, call them out. If your senator pocketed $80,000 from tech PACs and weakened antitrust laws, call them out. Because silence is consent, and consent is how corruption wins. Coming up in segment 2, we're going to dig even deeper. We'll break down the donor strategies, the bundling, the timing, the committee targeting. We'll show you how PACs play the long game and why they're winning. And then, in segment 3, we'll talk solutions. How you can protect yourself, your family, and your future in a system built for big money. Because knowledge isn't just power, it's survival. Stay with me. This is We the People 21, and we're just getting started. Welcome back to We the People 21. In segment 1, we laid out the battlefield, the bills, the donors, the money trail. Now it's time to talk about the playbook, because these donors aren't just throwing cash around randomly. They have strategies, they have timing, they have precision. And if you think this is just politics as usual, ask yourself this: why do the same PACs keep winning? Why do the same industries keep getting what they want? It's not luck, it's design. Let's start with bundling. Sounds harmless, right? A bunch of small donations grouped together. But here's the truth. Bundling is how PACs turn nickels into megaphones. TechNet PAC, for example, bundled $2.5 million from Silicon Valley executives during the Cybersecurity Act push. That's not grassroots, that's a coordinated strike. And lawmakers love it because it looks clean on paper. No single donor maxing out. Just a community of supporters. Except that community is a boardroom, not a neighborhood. Then there's timing. Ever notice how donations spike right before a committee markup? That's not coincidence. That's influence on a deadline. PCharme PAC tripled its contributions in the month leading up to the Medicare negotiation bill markup. Why? Because that's when the language gets written. That's when the loopholes get carved out. And if you think lawmakers aren't paying attention to those checks, think again. Ask yourself, if someone handed you $50,000 right before you made a big decision, would you forget about it? Neither do they. And let's talk about committee targeting. PACs don't waste money on lawmakers who can't move the needle. They zero in on the gatekeepers, the chairs, the ranking members, the swing votes. American Petroleum Institute PAC gave $40,000 each to every member of the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Environment before the fossil fuel subsidy vote. Every single one. That's not lobbying, that's buying the keys to the kingdom. And it works. The subsidies stayed. The donors smiled. And you kept paying for dirty energy. Here's the wake-up call. This isn't illegal. It's the system. And the system is working exactly as designed for them. Not for you. So when you hear lawmakers talk about serving the people, ask yourself, which people? The ones writing checks or the ones writing emails? Because I promise you, the inbox doesn't win against the checkbook. PACs also love ceremonial resolutions. Why? Because they're cheap influence. A resolution honoring veterans or promoting STEM education sounds harmless. But TechNet PAC and Google LLC PAC spent thousands backing lawmakers who sponsored National STEM Education Week. Why? Because goodwill today is leverage tomorrow. Veterans PAC poured $500,000 into ceremonial bills honoring military service, then cashed in during defense appropriations. These aren't random acts of kindness. They're investments. And here's another tactic: donor clustering. PACs identify lawmakers with overlapping committee roles and flood them with contributions. Senator Michael Brown chairs the Senate Commerce Subcommittee on Technology. He pulled in $80,000 from TechNet PAC and $65,000 from Cybersecurity Coalition PAC. Then he led markup on the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, A bill that allocates $5 billion in our /&D grants to tech firms represented by those PACs. Coincidence? Or return on investment? Ask yourself this. When a lawmaker gets $80,000 from a PAC and then writes a bill that benefits that PAC, is that democracy? Or is that procurement with a smile? And if you think this is rare, think again. It's everywhere. Energy, healthcare, housing, education. Every sector has its PAC army. And they're winning. Let's break down the top 5 PAC strategies shaping January's agenda. 1. Bundling contributions, turning small checks into big influence. 2. Timing donations before markups, because language matters more than headlines. 3. Committee targeting, buying access to the gatekeepers. 4. Ceremonial influence, using symbolic bills as leverage. 5. Donor clustering around key lawmakers, because power isn't spread evenly, it's concentrated. Now, why does this matter? Because these strategies don't just shape bills, they shape your life. When PACs bundle millions to push the Cybersecurity Act, they're not thinking about your privacy. They're thinking about contracts. When PHRMA floods committees with cash before a markup, they're not thinking about your prescription costs. They're thinking about profit margins. And when real estate PACs cluster around lawmakers on the banking committee, they're not thinking about your rent. They're thinking about their bottom line. Coming up in part 2 of this segment, we'll go even deeper. We'll look at historical donor patterns, predictive modeling, and voting records. We'll show you how money predicts policy with near-perfect accuracy. And we'll name names, because accountability starts with transparency. Stay with me. This is We the People 21, and we're just getting warmed up. We expose the strategies, the bundling, the timing, the committee targeting. Now let's talk about results. Because strategies mean nothing without outcomes. And here's the truth. Donor money doesn't just influence policy, it predicts it. Almost perfectly. So let's look at the numbers, the patterns, and the probabilities for January 2026. Start with energy. Fossil fuel PACs have spent $450 million over the past 6 years. Renewable energy PACs, they've surged from $50 million in 2019 to $180 million in 2025, a 260% increase. That's not just growth, that's a takeover attempt. And it's working. Every major climate bill since 2021 has passed when renewables outspend fossil fuels. So what's the forecast for H.R. 1234, the Renewable Energy Act? Renewable PACs are outspending fossil PACs 2-1. Probability of passage, 85%. Ask yourself, is that because lawmakers suddenly care about clean energy, or because 180 million speaks louder than science? Healthcare. Insurance PACs have poured $600 million into Washington since 2019. Universal care PACs, just $120 million. That's a 5-1 ratio. And guess what? Every major healthcare reform bill in the past 6 years has failed when insurance PACs dominated spending. So what about H.R. 5678, the Healthcare Accessibility Act? Insurance PACs are dropping $250 million to block it. Universal care PACs, $120 million to push it. Probability of passage, 30%. So when your premiums rise, don't call it bad luck. Call it donor math. Cybersecurity. Tech PACs have exploded from $20 million in 2019 to $150 million in 2025. Big tech PACs collectively spent $1.2 billion shaping privacy and antitrust laws. And here's the kicker. Every tech-backed cybersecurity bill in the past 5 years has passed. Every single one. So what about us? 3,456, the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act. Tech PACs are all in. Opposition? 0. Probability of passage? 95%. So yes, the bill will pass, but whose technology gets funded? The ones with the biggest checks. Housing. Real estate PACs have spent $250 million blocking affordable housing initiatives since 2019. Affordable housing PACs, just $90 million. And the record? Every major housing subsidy bill has failed when real estate PACs outspent advocates. So what about H.R. 2345, the Affordable Housing Act? Real estate PACs are spending $150 million to kill it. Housing advocates, $90 million to save it. Probability of passage, 35%. So when your rent spikes again, Remember, it wasn't inevitable. It was purchased. Education. Public school PACs have spent $300 million backing federal funding. Private education PACs, $180 million pushing vouchers. And the trend? Public education wins when Democrats control committees, but donor money still tilts the scale. So what about us? 6,789, the Education Reform Act. NEPAC is spending $150 million to pass it. Private education PACs, $60 million to block it. Probability of passage, 80%. So when your child's classroom gets new resources, thank the donors, not the rhetoric. Here's the wake-up call. These probabilities aren't guesses. They're based on 6 years of data. When PACs dominate spending, they dominate outcomes. And lawmakers, they follow the money with near-perfect alignment. 90% of top recipients vote in line with their biggest donors. 90%. So when you hear a lawmaker say, "I voted my conscience," ask yourself, whose conscience? The one that came with a $50,000 check. Let's talk voting records. Representative Michael Brown, $60,000 from AMA, voted against Medicare negotiation. Senator Alex Johnson, $55,000 from Real Estate Roundtable, opposed every housing subsidy bill since 2022. Senator Sarah Wilson, $75,000 from NEPAC, sponsored Education Reform Act. These aren't coincidences. They're patterns, and patterns tell the truth lawmakers won't. Now, committee hearings. January 15th, House Climate Change hearing. Donor stakes, $50 million from environmental PACs versus $40 million from coal PACs. Probability of pro-renewable narrative dominating, 80%. January 20th, Senate Help Healthcare Policy hearing. Donor stakes, $120 million versus $250 million. Probability of insurance lobby steering markup, 85%. These aren't debates, they're donor-driven scripts. Even ceremonial resolutions follow the money. National STEM Education Week. Tech PACs using symbolic bills to maintain influence optics. Veterans PACs leveraging goodwill for defense appropriations. Every dollar is a chess move. And the board? It's Congress. So what does this mean for you? It means your energy bills, your healthcare costs, your rent, your kids' education, your online security, all of it is being decided by donor math. And until we understand that, we're playing a game we can't win. But here's the good news. Knowledge is power. And power is what we're about to give you. Coming up in segment 3, we shift gears. We've shown you the battlefield. We've shown you the playbook. Now we'll show you the shield. How to protect yourself, your family, and your future in a system built for big money. Practical tools. Real strategies. Because awareness without action is just noise. Stay with me. This is We the People 21, and we're about to turn knowledge into power. Welcome back to We the People 21. We spent the last 2 segments exposing the battlefield and the playbook. Now it's time for the shield. Because knowledge isn't just power, it's survival. And if you think you're powerless in a system built for big money, think again. You have tools. You have options. You have a voice. The question is, will you use them? Let's start with the basics. If you want to fight donor influence, you need to see it. And the good news? You can. Right now, OpenSecrets.org is your first stop. It's the watchdog of watchdogs. Type in your representative's name and watch the truth unfold. Every PAC donation, every industry tie, every dollar that speaks louder than your vote. Want to know who funded the Renewable Energy Act fight? It's there. Want to see which insurance PACs are blocking healthcare reform? It's there. No excuses. No secrets. Just data. Next. FEC.gov, the Federal Election Commission. This is the raw feed, the receipts, every campaign contribution filed by law. It's not flashy, but it's real. And if you're serious about accountability, you'll bookmark it. Because when Representative Michael Brown says, I voted for the people. You can check if those people included TechNet PAC and 80,000 in bundle donations. And then there's govtrack.us. This is where you follow the bills. Every amendment, every vote, every committee hearing. Want to know when the Affordable Housing Act hits markup? GovTrack will tell you. Want to see if your senator skipped the vote on cybersecurity? GovTrack will show you. Because democracy isn't just about voting every 4 years, it's about watching every day. Here's the wake-up call. If you're not checking these sites, someone else is. And they're not checking for you, they're checking for themselves. PACs monitor every move. Lobbyists track every hearing. Donors know the game inside out. So why shouldn't you? Why let them play chess while you're stuck playing checkers? Now let's talk about how to use these tools effectively. Start with open secrets. Don't just glance at the numbers. Look for patterns. Which industries dominate your representative's donor list? Energy, healthcare, tech. That tells you where their priorities lie. Then cross-check with FEC filings for timing. Did those donations spike before a key vote? That's influence in action. And finally, track the bill on GovTrack. If your lawmaker votes in line with their biggest donors, you've got the evidence. And evidence is power. Here's an example. Let's say you look up Representative Alex Johnson. You see 40,000 from the American Petroleum Institute right before the Renewable Energy Act debate. Then you check GovTrack and see Johnson voted against the bill. That's not coincidence, that's correlation. And correlation is the first step toward accountability. Next, learn to decode PAC names. They sound friendly: Americans for Prosperity, Citizens for Affordable Housing. But dig deeper. Who funds them? What industries do they represent? Because behind every feel-good name is a business plan. And that business plan rarely includes you. Coming up, we'll talk about advocacy groups that can amplify your voice. Because one person can make noise, but 1,000 people make change. Stay with me, because this is where power shifts back to the people. We gave you the tools, the watchdog sites, the data sources, the patterns to look for. Now it's time to turn knowledge into action. Because awareness without action is just noise. So how do you fight back in a system built for big money? How do you protect yourself, your family, and your future when donor dollars dominate the game? Let's break it down. Step 1. Contact your lawmakers. And I'm not talking about sending a generic email that gets lost in the shuffle. I'm talking about specifics. Pull the data. Use open secrets. Use FEC filings. Then write, Representative, I see you accepted 50,000 from the insurance lobby before voting against the Healthcare Accessibility Act. Explain that. When you show them you know, they listen. Because accountability scares them more than opposition. And if they don't respond, post it publicly. Tag them. Make it visible. Step 2. Join advocacy groups. Because one voice can make noise, but 1,000 voices make change. Common Cause fights for campaign finance reform. League of Women Voters pushes for transparency and voter education. Public Citizen exposes corporate influence and lobbies for ethics in government. These groups organize petitions, rallies, and media campaigns. They amplify your voice. And they need you. Because democracy doesn't defend itself, it needs defenders. Step 3. Leverage social media. Call out donor influence publicly. Share the data. Tag your representatives. Use hashtags that trend. Hashtag follow the money. Hashtag we the people 21. Hashtag DonorWatch. Because silence is consent. And consent is how corruption wins. When you shine a light on the money trail, you make it harder for lawmakers to hide behind talking points. Step 4. Protect your family. Track bills that affect your life. Renewable Energy Act. Your utility bills. Healthcare Accessibility Act. Your premiums and prescription costs. Affordable Housing Act. Your rent. Cybersecurity Act. Your online safety. Knowledge lets you prepare, budget for potential increases, advocate for policies that help you, and vote with clarity. Don't wait for the fallout. Anticipate it. And here's something else. Teach your kids. Because civic literacy is the antidote to political apathy. Show them how to check GovTrack. Show them how to read a donor report. Explain why money matters in politics. Because the next generation will inherit the system, and they need to know how to fight for fairness. Now, let's talk about the January 2026 watch list. These are the bills that matter most to your wallet, your health, and your future. Renewable Energy Act, 85% chance of passage. Healthcare Accessibility Act, 30%. Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, 95%. Affordable Housing Act, 35%. Education Reform Act, 80%. These aren't just numbers. They're your reality. And if you want to change that reality, you have to act. Coming up in segment 4, we close strong. A recap, a call to action, and a roadmap for civic engagement that starts today. Because the donors aren't sleeping, the lobbyists aren't waiting, and the lawmakers, they're listening to whoever pays the most. Make them listen to you. Stay with me. This is We the People 21, and we're about to turn outrage into action. Welcome back to We the People 21. We've traveled a long road today, through the battlefield of bills, the playbook of PACs, and the shield of knowledge. Now it's time to bring it all together. Because information without action is just noise. And if you've stayed with me this far, you're not here for noise. You're here for clarity, for empowerment, and for a plan. Let's start with the recap. January 2026 is not just another month on the congressional calendar. It's a legislative storm. Renewable Energy Act, Healthcare Accessibility Act, Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, Affordable Housing Act, Education Reform Act. These aren't just names on paper. They're policies that will shape your energy bills, your healthcare costs, your rent, your kids' classrooms, and even your online safety. And behind every one of these bills is a money trail, a donor-driven tug-of-war that decides outcomes before the debate even begins. We've seen the numbers. Renewable energy PACs have pumped $180 million into pushing clean energy incentives, while fossil fuel PACs fight back with $90 million. Healthcare. Insurance PACs are dropping $250 million to block reforms, while universal care advocates scrape together $120 million. Tech PACs. They've locked down cybersecurity with $150 million and zero opposition. Real estate PACs. $150 million to kill affordable housing. Education PACs, $150 million to pass reforms, while private school PACs throw $60 million into the fight. These aren't just figures. They're forecasts. And the forecast says money wins. We've seen the probabilities. Renewable Energy Act, 85% chance of passage. Healthcare Accessibility Act, 30%. Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, 95%. Affordable Housing Act, 35%. Education Reform Act, 80%. These numbers aren't guesses. They're based on 6 years of donor patterns and voting records. And those records tell a story of lawmakers who vote with their donors 90% of the time. 90%. So when you hear a politician say, "I voted my conscience," ask yourself, whose conscience? The one that came with a $50,000 check. We've talked about strategies. Bundling contributions to turn nickels into megaphones, timing donations before markups to shape the language of bills, targeting committees to buy access to the gatekeepers, using ceremonial resolutions as cheap influence, clustering donations around lawmakers with overlapping committee roles. These aren't random acts. They're deliberate moves in a game where the rules favor the highest bidder. And we've talked about tools. OpenSecrets.org to follow the money. FEC.gov to see the receipts, GovTrack.us to watch the votes. We've talked about advocacy groups, Common Cause, League of Women Voters, Public Citizen, organizations that amplify your voice and fight for transparency. We've talked about social media as a megaphone for accountability. And we've talked about protecting your family, tracking bills that affect your life, budgeting for potential impacts, and teaching your kids the civic literacy they'll need to survive in a system built for big money. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a choice between silence and action, between scrolling past headlines and standing up for accountability, between letting donors write the future and writing it ourselves. Because here's the truth, the donors aren't sleeping, the lobbyists aren't waiting, and the lawmakers, they're listening to whoever pays the most. Make them listen to you. Here's your January 2026 watch list. Renewable Energy Act, January 5th. Healthcare Accessibility Act, January 10th. Clean Water Act Amendments, January 8th. Education Reform Act, January 12th. Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, January 14th. Affordable Housing Act, January 18th. Immigration Reform Hearing, January 22nd. These dates matter. Mark them. Share them. Track them. Because every one of these votes will ripple through your life. Let's talk about the roadmap, the steps you can take today to turn outrage into action. Because democracy isn't a spectator sport. It's a contact sport. And if you're not in the game, you're on the menu. Stay with me. This is We the People 21, and we're about to finish strong. This is it, the final stretch. We've walked through the battlefield, decoded the playbook, and armed ourselves with the shield of knowledge. Now it's time to finish strong, with action, with urgency, and with a roadmap that puts power back where it belongs, in your hands. Let's start with the truth. Democracy isn't a spectator sport. It's a contact sport. And if you're not in the game, you're on the menu. The donors know that. The lobbyists know that. The lawmakers know that. And they're counting on you to stay quiet, to stay distracted, to stay passive. So let's prove them wrong. Step 1, speak up. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Call your representative. Call your senator. Tell them you're watching. Tell them you know who's funding their votes. Use the data. Use the facts. Representative, I see you accepted $50,000 from the insurance lobby before voting against healthcare reform. Explain that. When you show them you know, you change the game. Because accountability scares them more than opposition. Step 2, organize. Join advocacy groups that fight for transparency and ethics. Common Cause, League of Women Voters, Public Citizen. These organizations amplify your voice. They organize petitions, rallies, and campaigns that lawmakers can't ignore. And they need you because democracy doesn't defend itself. It needs defenders. Step 3, educate. Share what you've learned. Post it on social media. Talk about it at the dinner table. Teach your kids how to track a bill, how to read a donor report, how to question power. Because civic literacy is the antidote to political apathy. And apathy is what corruption feeds on. Step 4, prepare. Track the bills that matter most to your life. Renewable Energy Act, your utility bills. Healthcare Accessibility Act, your premiums and prescriptions. Affordable Housing Act, your rent. Cybersecurity Act, your online safety. Education Reform Act, your kids' classrooms. Knowledge lets you anticipate impacts, budget for changes, and vote with clarity. And here's the big one, vote. Every election. Every time. Because donors can buy influence, but they can't buy your ballot, unless you give it away through silence. So don't. Show up. Speak out. And make your voice louder than their money. This is your roadmap. Speak up. Organize. Educate. Prepare. Vote. 5 steps. Simple steps. Steps that turn outrage into action. Because the donors aren't sleeping. The lobbyists aren't waiting. And the lawmakers, they're listening to whoever pays the most. Make them listen to you. Before we close, let's revisit the January 2026 watch list. Renewable Energy Act, January 5th. Healthcare Accessibility Act, January 10th. Clean Water Act Amendments, January 8th. Education Reform Act, January 12th. Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, January 14th. Affordable Housing Act, January 18th. Immigration Reform Hearing, January 22nd. These dates matter. Mark them. Share them. Track them. Because every one of these votes will ripple through your life. This is We the People 21. I'm Racheal Quinn. And I'm asking you to do one thing. Care enough to act. Because power belongs to the people, if the people take it. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and never forget, democracy is yours. Own it.